Alright, okie doke, so here we go with part 2. Drugs and why they probably played a big role in the Brock Turner case. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, when Brock was sentenced, his defense team said that he was an inexperienced drinker and partygoer, which wasn't true. Brock also claimed himself that he had never partied or celebrated with alcohol. This wasn't true. Brock actually drank underage quite often and also did drugs. So, we're just going to go through certain drugs first and what they are and how they affect the body. The lasting short-term side effects and the long-term side effects that come from these. So, the first drug that we know Brock dabbled in was alcohol. And alcohol is a depressant, and if you don't know what a depressant is, it slows down your vital functions. And I also like to point out I studied pretty much all drugs I could get my hands on information-wise when I took AP Psych. So I remember a lot of what I was taught, and I actually looked through my notes, so I do know what I'm talking about here, just as a side note. And I also took anatomy, physiology, 2 courses actually, to become a certified EKG tech as a prerequisite. So I also had to study the effects of drugs on the body, so I do know what I'm talking about. I'll pull out my certification to show you, and I'll pull out my textbooks too. Anyway, the first drug is alcohol. It's a depressant, and it slows down your vital functions. It doesn't make them stop, but it does slow them down. So, short-term effects are slurred speech, drowsiness, vomiting, diarrhea, upset stomach, headaches, difficulty breathing, distorted vision and hearing, impaired judgment, decreased perception and coordination, unconsciousness, anemia, coma, and blackouts. And the long-term effects are unintentional injuries, loss of productivity at work, broken relationships and family issues, alcohol poisoning, hypertension, stroke, liver disease, nerve damage, brain damage, sexual problems, whiskey dick is a thing, guys, ulcers, gastritis, malnutrition, and cancer of the mouth and or throat. So, these are all long-term effects that can happen if you start at a young age, before your body's fully developed, or you drink excessively, you binge drink. So, Brock drank underage a lot, so I'm sure that he has some kind of brain damage memory-wise, and he may also attribute some of his issues with women to the broken relationship issue and sexual problems. I know that some rapists and people who are charged with sexual assault are very angry. Rape is a crime of anger and control. So, I can see clearly, in my opinion, how alcohol definitely affected his judgment. It's no excuse, but it certainly attributes to what went on that night. So the second drug that we hear about Brock using is acid. So acid is a potent mood-changing chemical from the lysergic acid found in the ergo fungus that grows on rye and other grains. It is also believed that this chemical induced the dancing plague in the medieval ages, where people danced in the streets until they died of exhaustion or passed out from exhaustion. So, what are the effects? Some physical effects are dilated pupils, increased or decreased body temperature, sweating or chills, a loss of appetite, insomnia, dry mouth, and tremors. There is also a slight multitude of mental effects, including delusions, visual hallucinations, an artificial sense of euphoria and certainty, distortion of time and identity, also known as disassociation, impaired depth perception, fear of losing control, panic attacks, depression, and psychosis. So, these effects can also be lasting. Sometimes when people take LSD for the first time, it totally fucks them up because they have a bad trip. So, I can understand the sense of euphoria and certainty, maybe thinking, oh, she totally wants this. Maybe he took acid that night and he never told us. We will never know. But I can definitely see, if he did, how it attributed to what went down. Third we know of is ecstasy, and I don't know if he ever used ecstasy, but he did talk about wanting to try candy flippin', which is taking acid and ecstasy together. So, ecstasy is a psychoactive drug, and it's mainly used at raves, clubs, festivals, and house parties. It is the rave drug of choice. The chemical name is, oh god, methylene dioxymethamphetamine. I think I said that right. So, what are the effects of ecstasy? Oh, ecstasy is also known as MDMA. That's where that chemical name comes from. That's the abbreviation for it, is MDMA. So the effects of ecstasy, short term at least, are impaired judgment, a false sense of affection, lowered inhibitions, confusion, depression, insomnia, increased body temperature, anxiety, paranoia, drug cravings, muscle tension, blurred vision, nausea, and teeth grinding. If you ever see girls at raves, if you look up pictures, you'll see them with necklaces around them with pacifiers attached. They're called candy, K-A-N-D-I. There are candy bracelets, necklaces, whatever, but a lot of rave girls have candy necklaces with pacifiers attached to them because they grind their teeth. It's an involuntary thing, so when they start grinding their teeth, they'll put the pacifier in so it doesn't ruin their teeth. Some long-term effects include brain damage in the areas of the brain that contribute to thought, memory, learning, sleep, and emotion. Degenerated nerve branches and nerve endings. Your neurons and axons get fucked. It's like someone rewired your brain. There's also depression, anxiety, and memory loss, kidney failure, hemorrhaging, psychosis, cardiovascular collapse, convulsions, and eventually death in the worst case scenario. So, the long-term effects, like brain damage where his brain was rewired and he's not really sure the difference between yes and no, or I want it and I don't, or maybe he finally took ecstasy that night and there was that impaired judgment and that false sense of affection. I can see how that attributed to what happened. And as I said before, I don't think he's right. I'm just saying there are these connections I'm making that seem to make this kind of stand out, and that the drugs that he talked about using and did use, he's not as innocent as his defense lawyer is trying to make him look. So, the fourth drug we have is weed. Good old marijuana. So if you don't know what weed is, it is the buds of the Indian hemp plant. The dried leaves, buds, roots, whatever, basically the Indian hemp plant. And the active chemical is tetrahydrocannabinol, or THC. So, if you don't know what weed is, I don't even know why I have to explain this. Everyone here probably knows what weed is. And I'd also like to point out, before we get into it, I took this from drugfreeamerica.org where they're trying to scare kids. So I did just kind of like paraphrase what they said. But some of these are going to be crazy, and I'm not trying to like rag on anyone who uses any drugs that I mentioned or weed, or ragging on the community who uses it for medical purposes. If I could use it for my medical issues, I gladly would. I'm just saying some of the shit they put down was pretty out there. So, just be forewarned. So, what are the effects of weed? Well, the short-term effects include memory problems, anxiety, paranoia, psychosis, panic, hallucinations, loss of identity, also known again as disassociation, slow reaction times, tachycardia, higher risk of stroke, lowered coordination, male sexual problems, and apparently females are 7 times more likely to contract an STD while they are under the effects of marijuana. Ain't that something? So the long-term effects are as follows. They say there's an IQ decline, and that people are more likely to drop out of school. A lower satisfaction in life overall. Impaired learning abilities and thinking abilities. More predisposed to addiction. More predisposed to potential opioid abuse. Relationship issues. Antisocial tendencies like stealing or lying. Well, gosh, Brock lied quite a bit in his case, so yeah. Oh no, whatever will we do? Not the weed. Financial difficulty. I guess you're spending all your money on pot. Welfare dependence. Unemployment and not getting good jobs or being able to keep good jobs. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what I was thinking using a site that's trying to scare kids. And then drug 5 is wax. Now, you go look up wax on Google. I type in wax drug because sometimes if you look up just regular wax, it might give you like beeswax or wax melts for candle making. You have to be kind of specific. And sorry. And wax actually looks exactly what it sounds like. It looks like earwax, and that's one of the terms for it. But wax is basically a concentrate of marijuana that is far more powerful than regular weed or just smoking a joint, where you get like 15% of the THC, the active chemical. This is like smoking 15 to 20 joints consecutively. So the effects are pretty much the same in marijuana. They're just more intense, they come on faster, and they last a bit longer. They're heightened. You also can have things like euphoria, panic attacks, hallucinations, paranoia, loss of consciousness, increased injury risk, overdose. And I'm not talking like dead overdose. It's very hard to overdose on marijuana, but there are people who have overdosed to the point that they've gotten very sick. Psychosis, you build up a tolerance, so you need to take more, which is where the overdoses are coming from. Addiction, because you're taking more, you're more likely to get addicted to it, and severe withdrawal symptoms. Much worse than if you were to take regular pot. So, looking back on all this, I can see how these might have affected Brock Turner and his thinking process. Now, in no way am I saying he's right. No way am I saying that he should get a free pass or that this doesn't matter in court, because it does. It does, because he lied and said he wasn't an experienced drinker or party goer when it's very clear he was. Maybe he just didn't follow the rules or anything. And took more, drank more, smoked more, whatever, than he should have. So, I'm just saying there are a lot of these side effects that I can attribute to why he might have thought what he was doing was okay and why he doesn't want to take accountability for what he did. If you guys can think of any more reasons why drugs might have fucked with his head, please tell me. I'd love to know. It'd be really interesting in my opinion, because I did want to pursue psychology, but I just knew it probably wasn't going to happen. But if you know of any interesting articles looking at thought process and drugs and rape, I'd love to hear them. I'd love to read them. So please let me know in the comments or direct message me. I'd love to see them, hear them. And I will see you in part 3 where we look at Brock Turner's drug history. I will see you all in the next video.